Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Amirul Ashraf bin Muhammad Hanafi from IPS of UPTM Cheras. I am going to present on something called Mantiq here, or in Arabic, Al-Mantiq. Actually, it is an Arabic term, which is a very powerful tool of learning. Before I do that, let me mention here that in the team that we have, the tema that we have, I have highlighted the word innovation here, whereby when there is a description of it, there is a mention of tools in educational process. And Mantiq, which is the main topic that I am presenting today, is actually one of a very powerful tools in the educational process, the teaching and learning environment. In this presentation, I basically have three objectives to achieve. I'm going to introduce to you what Mantiq is. Secondly, I'm going to demonstrate how it is used in the teaching and learning process, a part of it anyway, because there are a lot of things that exist in Mantiq. And the last one, I'm going to quickly go through some importance of this subject or this tool of learning, especially from the perspective of a university. Now, what is Mantiq? As you can see, it's actually a subject or knowledge discipline which may be translated into logic or critical thinking. There is something in the educational field called freemium. Mantiq or logic is actually one of the lost tools of learning. This is together with grammar and rhetoric. And this is quite unfortunate because many people, although they are a learner, they are a student, they forget that logic plays a very important role. But more importantly, some people may be aware of that, but they have never studied Mantiq properly using proper syllabus, proper systematic way of doing it, because it does exist outside that. And Mantiq itself has been a well-established subject. There are syllabus to it, and I'm going to demonstrate some part of it. Now, what is Mantiq in terms of the content of it? In general, this subject contains two main elements, namely the definition, tasawwur, and proposition, tasdiq. In this presentation, however, I am going to focus only on definition due to time constraints, but let me quickly explain to you what do we mean by this. Definition is basically, understanding a word, what does it mean, and things like that. But proposition involve more than one words. When you try to relate one and the other, let's say between UPTM and the word best university. So definition is to define what is a university, what is UPTM. Proposition is to prove the relationship between UPTM and it being the best university. So when you say UPTM is the best university, then that is a proposition. And Mantiq does deal with that kind of aspect, which is how do we prove an argument? How do we prove that a statement is correct or wrong? So before I go further, let me quickly explain here, but that in my opinion, Mantiq falls under what we call a universal tool, as compared to many technology or applications that we have. Although they are very much important, they are basically under the category of supporting tool. And as we can see here, there are some differences. Mantiq, which is a universal tool, it has very universal use. That means you can use it anywhere, you can use it anytime, or in many different circumstances that you have. It's something that we cannot do without, as compared to supporting tools, which are very useful, but they have very, very particular use, very specific use, and it does play a role to complement others. In my own class, for example, as an example of a supporting tool, I actually use something called wheel of names to do cold calling in class. And like I said, because Mantiq emphasizes on the importance of definition, for instance, let me define to you what is cold calling. Cold calling, or panggilan dingin, if you will, in Malay, is when you call the students without giving them prior warning. Like suddenly you call their name to answer questions, and that may not be an effective way of doing it. Maybe they do not. Maybe they know some answers to our question, but because they are shocked. So to avoid that, or to minimize that, at least wheel of names is where you can include their names inside it, and you can click here, so it will rotate, and the students will be more ready, right, in expectation of their names being called. And that really is one of the technology that we have, which is free, by the way, here, to help students really be prepared when their names are called. But that's not the main focus of my presentation today. Let me now dive deep into how do we use Mantiq as a very important tool in the classroom. It is very important to understand here that in whatever subjects and in whatever topics or issues that we have either in the classroom, at university level, or at outside university level. Many things involve claims and arguments. And Mantiq is a tool that anyone who has it will be able to evaluate and analyze the claim. For example, in biology and philosophy, I'm going to read this very quickly. Human being is a product of evolution. That can be debated. You have in business, differentiation is a perfect business strategy, for instance. Vaccination is the best way to fight against COVID in healthcare. Physical class is always better than online class in education. And capitalistic economics is better than socialist economics in the field of economics. Again, there is a yes and no answer, meaning do we agree or do we not agree to each of these statements, and Mantiq will help us do that. Like I said earlier, however, I'm just going to demonstrate how we use definition to really see its importance and to see how it is relevant in the discussion of a claim. So like one claim we take here, human being is a product of evolution. So we have the definition of human being. What is human being? Before I agree that human being is a product of evolution, I cannot agree or even disagree unless I firstly understand the definition, the meaning of human being and evolution. And I think it is something that many people already know. But what Mantiq teaches us is that there is a proper, systematic way to either construct a definition or even to challenge a definition when someone we are debating with or talking to give their definition. So there are two things here. Number one, creating or constructing a definition would require something called the 5 predicable or al-kulliyatul khamsa. Again, I don't have much time to explain that. I'm going to focus on the second one, which is called the rule of being inclusive, jami' and of being exclusive or mani'. In other words, what Mantiq teaches us is that when we create a definition, a good definition is a definition that is inclusive and also exclusive. Inclusive means that the definition includes everything that it should include, and exclusive means that it excludes everything that it should exclude. An easy example here would make us understand better. Let's say we ask just now from the statement, what is the definition of human being? And I'm going to again use the word jami', mani' or exclusive, inclusive here to demonstrate how important this is in a definition. So someone may give a definition of a human being and he said, a human being is an animal with beard. And this is not a good definition. Why? Because it doesn't follow the rule of being inclusive and exclusive. Let me explain. When we say that human being is an animal with beard, we have other animals that also have beard, like a goat, right? So can we say that a goat is a human being? Well, definitely no. But this shows that this definition is not exclusive. Why? Because in this definition, that human being is an animal with beard, it doesn't exclude goats, although goats are not human beings. So it is a bad definition. It's a poor definition. Or let's take the other side of it, whereby when we talk about men and women, for instance, in general, women don't have beard. But can we say that women are not human beings? That's not true. So in that case, this definition, an animal with beard, is also not inclusive, because when we give a definition, it should include women also. But with a definition that animal you understand that human being is animal with beard, then women is excluded here. So this demonstration shows to us how, again, Mantiq will teach us how to make a very good definition. And for your information, I'm going really quick here. The real definition agreed by the philosophers and like a convention and agreement among the people who study this matter is that a human being, the good definition of a human being is that they are a thinking animal or living thing. Al-hayawanun natiq. And from here alone, we know that a human being is a living thing. But that means it includes both men and women, because both men and women, they live, right? Although they can die, of course. But also at the same time, to distinguish us from goats, from tigers, from all other animals, there is the word thinking there. So from the word thinking and animal, then it defines the human being as in a very perfect way. Now I'm going to finish my demonstration with this. This is more about how from definition we move on to proposition. There is this discussion on whether God exists, like what Muslims believe, versus God, the claim that God does not exist, like those believe, like the one, I mean, people like atheists, they believe in this. But sometimes we forget that people would reject something or accept something because of the definition. Let's say, in my experience, I've met people who actually reject the existence of God because they have a particular wrong definition of God. Let's say if they look at a certain religion, and from that religion, they conceptualize God as a human being, which has some divinity power or thing like that. And because of that, they cannot make sense of that. They say God can never be a human being. And because some people conceptualize God as a human being or a human God, therefore some people reject that there is God. But the problem there is that it's not really that they are rejecting the existence of God. Rather, they have understood the definition of God in a wrong way. So with a wrong definition of God, in this case like a human God, some people can deny the existence of God because they cannot make sense of a God being a human. That's why even in Islam, as Muslims, we know that we have a proper definition of God. Or actually, to be more strict, there is no definition of God, but there are some attributes of God that we need to know. And if only they know this definition of God, they may be more willing and accepting to believe in the existence of God. Like one of the very important maxims that we have is called al-hukmu ala shay'i far'un an tasawwuri, which means before we make a judgment on something, before we agree or disagree on something, we really have to make a proper definition of it. And I would like to end with this, a few more, the last part of my presentation. There is one statement by a Muslim scholar, a local scholar. He said that it is not about your PowerPoint, but the power in your point. And I believe as a lecturer and also students, they can only create a powerful, a strong point if they learn Mantiq, which really helps them to come up with either a very good definition or a strong argument. This is the last part of my presentation. Number one, I want to say that Mantiq is important because it is a tool of learning. It doesn't only teach someone certain subjects, but very importantly, it teaches someone to learn how to learn. This tool, Mantiq, is a very important tool because it allows someone to become a lifelong learner. Secondly, we can see how important Mantiq is because if we use another example like grammar, which is another subject that we have in English, grammar helps one to avoid making mistakes in speech. But likewise, Mantiq is a subject, a tool that helps someone to avoid making mistakes in thinking. And if we think deeply about this, between making a speech and thinking is actually more fundamental because we have to think before we speak. And if grammar helps us with giving or saying something in the right manner, our speech, then Mantiq is more important because it helps us to have the right way of thinking. And lastly, again, I was talking about how this is a universal tool. It is very important in this world when we have social media, we are overloaded with information. There are also even fake news and things like that. Mantiq will really help a student and individual to filter that and to really critically analyze them. And these are my closing remarks. The term Mantiq is actually used because it represents an innovation in logic. In other words, I'm using this word Mantiq in Arabic language because in the Muslim knowledge tradition, Mantiq is actually quite different from logic in the sense that our scholars have some addition, very useful addition to Muslim when it comes to Mantiq. So it is logic, but in addition to it, there are more things that someone can learn to become a critical thinker. Secondly, this tool requires serious dedication and time to master. Hence, also, why what I am sharing here perhaps is only like 1% of the entire content of Mantiq itself. But really, it is not an easy thing. It really requires commitment for someone to really master the subject. And lastly, I'm going to end with this. I believe Mantiq is not only by itself an innovative tool, it is also a tool that students and an individual or a lecturer can use to create an innovation or an innovative product. But more importantly, because it is very powerful and a strong tool, Mantiq itself can actually produce more innovators. And I hope this is well understood. Wallahu a'lam. Wassalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And thank you very much.